Oh, hey guys. So I'm doing this video. This is going to look at any potential future claims that Darren Henson could bring against Ryan Reynolds over the use of his Bye 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 choreography in Deadpool and Wolverine. So at this point now, we've done all the actual defendants. I'm speculating Ryan Reynolds could become a potential defendant. And this video really is to just go through my theory on that. And so I'll go through my slides, but I will also look through Instagram posts as well, just to sort of support that. I have quite a few things to do. There's some filings in this case specifically, which I need to cover. Largely that Darren Henson has dismissed his case in Georgia against Sony because he amended his complaint and transferred to California and added a bunch of new defendants to the lawsuit to join Sony, basically. What else? Oh, yes, Jones Works. Yes, we had a filing last night. I got excited because nothing has happened on that lawsuit for ages. So yeah, it's just a joint stipulation about an extension of time to complete expert discovery. But it's something I will just go through. It's it'll be a short video, but I will do the video later on today. All right, so let's go into this. So where I'm coming from here is Nick Pauley has put out some public statements on Instagram specifically, and he's not the only one. Okay, we've got Johnny Lycan's statement, which was added to the amended complaint, Darren Henson's amended complaint. Now, the statement that Darren Henson added to the amended complaint is actually not the same Johnny Lycan's where he goes into more detail. So I was going to go through that statement as well at the end, the one I've got. I might compare and contrast to what Darren Henson's got in the amended complaint. But yeah, so there are public statements, and I'm going to predominantly use Nick Pauley, but Nick Pauley is not the only one who's made statements which seem to suggest, deeply imply, that Ryan Reynolds had, supervisory control over the use of the dance, and for me, it then gives credibility to the possibility that he could become a dependent for contributory and vicarious copyright infringement. Okay, so Nick Pauley's reported statements that Ryan Reynolds was now these aren't word for word statements, I have to say that. But the implication is that Ryan Reynolds was the person, he was in control, he was making decisions about performing the choreography. That's precisely the type of evidence court rely upon to establish supervisory control and material contribution. Both are operative elements of secondary copyright liability. Now, currently, the amended complaint does not include any statements from Nick Pauley. It only has the one statement from Johnny Lycan. But I personally think that Darren Henson inserted that basically to indicate what may come next. So the amended complaint doesn't currently include Pauley's statements. However, if Henson's counsel adds it, then Ryan Reynolds would transition from a passive creative participant to a legally exposed defendant under two distinct theories of liability. Now, the first is contributory copyright infringement. For that, Reynolds would have to know the protected choreography and materially contributed to its use. And then the second theory is vicarious copyright infringement. So that would require Reynolds holding supervisory control over the infringing act and having a direct financial interest in it. Now, the omission of Paulie's statements from the current complaint is a material gap, one that, if corrected, reshapes the entire defendant landscape. So why Paulie's statements... missed the S. Why Paulie's statements are the missing link? So the amended complaint establishes the structural chain. RSP, which is Richmond Street Productions, one of the defendants, was created by Marvel. Paulie was hired by RSP. The choreography was used without a license. But the complaint is silent on who directed Paulie to perform the dance. And for me, that silence is legally significant. And we obviously know there's going to be direction from Sean Levy. He was a director. But I'm not going to focus too much on him because I think it goes without saying, really. And I don't want to hone in on him too much because there are very few public shout-outs, really, to Sean Levy. You know, there's probably about 20% of them, include some from Paulie, some from Johnny Likens, but there are far more credits given to Ryan Reynolds. Not just for the actual use of the dance in the film, but also for other things as well, which we'll get to. Okay, so what the complaint already alleges is that Richmond Street Productions was created by Marvel to produce the sequence. Paulie was engaged by RSP to perform the copyrighted choreography. The use proceeded without authorization or license from Henson. So what does the complaint not say? It doesn't identify who instructed Paulie to perform the dance, leaving Reynolds at present characterized as a passive creative contributor rather than a decision maker. But what Paulie's statements add to this is that basically Paulie is attesting that Ryan Reynolds was in control, had some control, and made decisions. Ryan Reynolds then becomes a decision maker, supervisor, and person with direct control over the infringing act, which is exactly what courts require. Now, if we look at the first theory, contributory copyright infringement, there is a two-element test. So to establish contributory liability, a plaintiff must show that Reynolds, 1, knew the choreography was protected by copyright, and 2, materially contributed to the decision to use it without authorization. Now, Paulie's statements, if credited, directly satisfies element 2. A person who directs the performance of an infringing work has materially contributed to the infringement as a matter of law. Now, do we know at this point in time whether Ryan Reynolds had direct knowledge of Henson's copyright? Probably not. And at the time, Henson hadn't actually he didn't actually have the work copyrighted. It wasn't registered. But there would have been definitely a belief that it was copyrighted. They surely would have been, because they had to obtain license to use the song. So whether there was an assumption made that, that Sony also held the license for the dance, something which Sony themselves seemed to think was the case, that may be what has happened here. And I find it interesting that Nick Paulie is now going around and editing his Instagram statements, like literally, less than 2 months ago, to credit Darren Henson for the choreography. So, establishing knowledge, right? So, element 1, knowledge may be inferred from circumstantial evidence. So, courts have sufficient knowledge where the defendant participated in licensing discussions for the work, right? So, I'm going to just pause there, right? We know there is evidence that Ryan Reynolds was certainly involved with this movie. Why? Because They also had to obtain a license to use Madonna's song Like a Prayer. And Ryan Reynolds does a whole video, a whole interview, which is on YouTube, about, when he went, I think it was with Sean Levy, to Madonna's house. He expressly stated that Madonna had never licensed this song for anything. So they were, they'd and how he'd written the entire sequence before he thought to go and ask about the license. So the license in that situation, he'd already written everything, and I think it had been performed, and then asking about licensing the song was an afterthought. But he participated in seeking the license from Madonna for that song. So he did. I can categorically state that Ryan Reynolds participated in licensing decisions for the movie. Okay, so the next element is that the defendant was advised that clearance was required. Again, I think that would be quite self-explanatory. And I don't, again, they had to seek clearance for the use of NSYNC's song and for Madonna's song. So I think that was self-explanatory. I think what has happened here is they've intertwined the dance with the song. They've not separated, and that's where they've gone wrong. And then the third is that the defendant overrode or ignored legal counsel's concerns. So that's a possibility. But so we don't know what's happened there, whether they were told, no, you need to get, Darren Henson's permission, and then they just ignored it. I don't think that happened. But even absent actual knowledge, courts may treat reckless disregard of an obvious infringement risk as legally sufficient. So, and certainly the choreographer seems to have gained a sudden, like Nick Pauly, he seems to have gained a sudden knowledge that he needs to credit Darren Henson. But again, these are people who are, they're well in the business. And a bit of due diligence would have told them that they needed to contact Darren Henson, that the choreography was owned by Darren Henson. They hire, some of the best law firms in the world who are specialists in entertainment law and copyright law, because they deal with these matters all the time. This is not something that, is the first time they're coming across it. So they just didn't understand how this works. They understand how the entertainment industry works. They understand how licensing works because they use it all the time. And, I'm struggling to accept that, well, they just overlooked this issue. So, that's that. If I had made this mistake, then I would have been overlooking the issue, and that's a whole different kettle of fish. But here, they're in the industry where they are using this all the time. I cannot believe that their attorneys would not have, if asked, looked into this and questioned and said, oh, hold on a minute, this guy, Darren Henson, he's done a video teaching the dance. His Instagram, talks about how the dance is his. He was awarded a VMA Music Award for the dance. Should we not speak to him? I refuse to believe that. Not an entity like Sony and Marvel, and not Ryan Reynolds. So the second theory, and this is a stronger theory, vicarious copyright infringement. So this is where Pauly statements carry its greatest legal force. So unlike contributory infringement, vicarious liability does not require proof of knowledge, only supervisory control and financial interest. Okay, so element 1, right and ability to supervise. So Pauly statements provide direct testimonial support for this element. A defendant who, by a performer's own account, was in control and made decisions plainly held the right and ability to supervise the infringing activity. Element 2, direct financial interest. So Reynolds' producer credit on the production and Maximum Effort's marketing involvement are independently supportive of this element. Courts construe financial interest broadly. Reputational and commercial benefit from the infringing work suffices, and clearly he had a reputational benefit from this dance. So I think that box is also ticked. And then there's a combined effect. So both elements satisfied together render Reynolds a viable and plausible defendant. Henson need not prove willfulness. Vicarious liability is a strict liability adjacent doctrine once the two prongs are met. So just on that kind of note there, I want to look at some of the statements. Where are we? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move around here, but this is 25th of July 2025. And this is Nick Pauly. Now at the bottom he is credited choreography by Darren Henson. Okay. Thank you, Ryan, Hugh, Sean, Wendy, and Marvel for making an unfathomable dream come true. Share this one now. This is another statement. I'm just going to go back to this one actually. Yes, the credit for Darren Henson, as you see, right at the top. It was edited 8 weeks ago. You'll see a lot of these, right? Like this one, edited 8 weeks ago at the top, 26th of July. It's true, I'm dance pool in the new Deadpool and Wolverine. Blah, 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 blah. I can't believe I have the honor of being in Van City Reynolds dance double, etc., etc. While filming, I felt right at home. And then he credits Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy for your encouragement and enthusiasm when bringing me on board. Okay. So he's crediting them there for bringing him on board. What else we got? This one. Again, also edited quite a while ago, though. It was edited almost immediately, actually, at the same time it was posted. To add a credit to Darren Henson. Thank you, Ryan Reynolds, for believing in me to play dance pool. Right, so it's Ryan Reynolds is the one that's credited for believing in him to play dance pool, which suggests that he made the decision to hire. What else have we got? I'm going to show these actually just very quickly while I got them up. These are some of the examples of like I've done the Nick Pauly video already, but I've got two examples as well of the, unrelated to the film and the promotion of the film work he did with the dance. So he's here doing the dance in New York City. He does actually credit Darren Henson, performing Darren Henson's choreography in the original Dance Bye 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 music video, sprinkling in some of Dance Pool's magic. And then there's this one. I can't play these videos because they got the music and I don't want a copyright strike. But this is the 4th of August 2024. Teaching to Bye 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 Tomorrow. BDC NYC. There was no credit to Darren Henson, and that would have been something that he would have been paid for. He said one of the paid performances that he'd done that were nothing to do with the film. And here's the other one. And there are multiple ones referred to in here. Again, no reference to Darren Henson. Wow, so many people came to my class yesterday and slayed. Brazil, you're next. I'm teaching at MDC Dance BR. I have no idea what that is. Tomorrow. So these are the dance classes that he's getting paid to do. And it's interesting is he does that lovely dance, but all people are really talking about in the comments is the fact that he's got his jumper, only one arm in his jumper. And he dances like that as well, which is bizarre. Okay, so there is one more, but I think it's one of the more important ones. Just to go back to the Ryan Reynolds of it all for a second. It's this one. A literal dream come true. This is the 4th of March 2025. Thank you, Ryan Reynolds, who loved the idea of dance pool at the Oscars. Yeah, he's not crediting Sean Levy, and I think Hugh Jackman was a bit annoyed because he's obviously a trained theatre, dancer, singer, and actor, and he wasn't asked to go and perform any dancing at the Oscars, as part of Deadpool and Wolverine. But yeah, I mean so he goes on. I mean the real Deadpool, approving my silly idea, So he's pitched an idea to Ryan Reynolds about doing a dance at the Oscars, and Ryan Reynolds has gone, yes. And then not only that, he advocated for dance pool. That's fucking awesome, and I love you for that, and I love you. Is it too soon for the L word? I hope not. Oop, I'm crying again. I mean, this guy is a bit sappy, but... Sigh, sorry y'all, I'll probably never shut up about this. So, again, an event, public event, very public event actually, where, Nick Pauly put the idea to Ryan Reynolds, hey, maybe we could do something at the Oscars, and Ryan Reynolds leapt on the idea and pushed for it to happen, made it happen. So, there you go. I want to go to, before I go back to the slideshow, so this is the amended complaint. I thought I had it on the right page already. I didn't. So I'm just going to quickly go through this Johnny Likens post that is in here. One thing I never thought I would find myself doing in my career would be learning the dance moves to NSYNC's Bye 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 to try and sell the idea of a dance in Deadpool to Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy for their opening title sequence, but here we are. Behold, a never before seen, very rare behind the scenes clip of me in the motion capture suit learning the moves, and the motion test footage that I pitched to the filmmakers to showcase how funny it could be to intercut the idea to the sequence. Director Sean Levy was later quoted in an interview with someone saying, this concept changed the entire DNA of the opening sequence. You never know where a great idea is coming from. It's been wild to see this come to light, etc., etc. Now, this post has all these hashtags at the bottom. Deadpool and Wolverine. Hashtag Deadpool. Hashtag Dancepool. Hashtag NSYNC. Hashtag Bye Bye Bye. Doesn't have hashtag Darren Henson. Hashtag mocap. And then the last one, hashtag maximum effort. So maximum effort, we're on board. And I'm kind of glad I did go to that because I do have, a little bit about maximum effort in my slides. Okay, so let's just go to the other post from Johnny Likens. which says, seeing our opening title sequence for Deadpool and Wolverine, especially these dancing shots, go viral the last few days has been so rewarding to watch. Back in January, I had the unique privilege of pitching concepts and ideas to the one and only Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy for the opening sequence of their film. My favourite aspect of the Deadpool character is his ability to break the fourth wall and become ultra aware that he's in the middle of an action scene in a Marvel movie. I felt strongly that if Deadpool consciously knows that he's in this fight scene that is being cut to bye bye bye, he might just feel inclined to bust out some of the iconic NSYNC dance moves while killing off the bad guys. Very good at Johnny Lycan to, basically admit that the dance is iconic. To try and sell this idea to the filmmakers, I taught myself how to do the bye 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 choreography via YouTube videos and proceeded to record the moves while I was wearing a motion capture suit. After I retargeted the mocap data to our previous Deadpool character rig, I animated handheld camera moves to make it feel like shots out of a music video. There was a lot of creative exploration about what kind of environment the dancing movements would happen in, but the stylized, hyper-real forest scene was everyone's favourite. Ryan and Sean thought it was hilarious, cracking up on the pitch call, and I knew immediately it was going to work. Sean told me it's a 1 in a million idea and you nailed it. Shortly after, they hired on choreographer Nick Pauly to do the dance properly in the Deadpool suit and shoot it on the blue screen. From there, we brought the live-action dance into the stylized 3D environment comps and animated custom camera moves in post. There's so much fun, process and breakdown material to share when the time comes, including our work on the dynamic typography from ultra-talented folks like, and he names a few people. And just maybe I'll even show a footage of me in the suit doing the mocap. And then he goes on to thank Method Studios, Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy for the amazing collaboration. Okay. So now I just want to go to another Nick Pauly post. This was 24th February 2025. Happy 1 year anniversary. So clearly he shot the footage on 24th February 2024. Oh, I've been holding on to this for a long time. Again, I can't play it because they're playing the music. It's him basically just doing the dance in front of the blue screen. 1 year ago today, we filmed the intro of Deadpool and Wolverine. In this shot, I'm performing towards the camera while the rest of the crew is watching the monitor on the side. I love hearing Sean Levy's comments. He and everyone were so stoked, etc., etc. And then he goes down and he says, every day I wake up and I'm so grateful for this little role. It means so much to me. And then he thanks Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Sean Levy, and someone else, and everyone I had the pleasure of working with. Have all been great mentors and friends throughout the past year. Etc., etc. So there we go. No shout out to Darren Henson on this one though. Just an observation. Okay, so if we go back to the slideshow. So continue on. Now we've seen some of the statements, right? And that's just a handful. There's 2 different people as well. It's not even just Nick Pauly. And on top of that, I could go to Instagram and do you know what? I will do it. I will go to. Okay, so it's just here, and it's just a small little sentence, right? But where is it? So she says, my Y2K girlies, I should be competitive because Enzo's movie is coming out in 3 weeks. But when your middle school obsessions, your feelings post-baby, or about nice men who use feminism as a tool, yada, 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 right? And then she talks about all the way that she has been seen, right? And it's not hard to spot all the ways we've influenced the Deadpool movie. So she is now taking credit for all of these things, right? 90 feminism, we know what that's about. It's just about Donny. Your Love of the Wizard of Oz, Succession, Sandy and Danny, Driving with Avril Blastin, that's Avril Lavigne. The way the choreography of a certain boy band got me. It's hard not to encourage my ladies to spot all the way we've influenced Deadpool movie. I've never been more proud. Blah blah blah. So she is, in my opinion, taking credit for that dance as well. So it's hard to know really at this point who influenced it, but either way, everyone is pointing to Ryan Reynolds. Okay, so let's get back to this. So agency and tortfeasor liability. So what the complaint already says, and this is a quote, paragraph 9, each of the defendants was the agent and or employee of some or all of the other defendants. Okay, so this boilerplate agency allegation, standard in IP complaints, becomes substantive the moment Pauli's statements are introduced. Reynolds directing Pauly transforms a generic pleading into a specific evidenced principal-agent relationship. And there are three possible legal characterizations. Firstly, we've got undisclosed principal. So Reynolds operated behind RSP. Now, I couldn't find any evidence that he is like one of the, company directors or an official of RSP. But Reynolds operated behind RSP and Maximum Effort without being named in the direct contractual chain. Classic undisclosed principal exposure. Joint tortfeasor. Reynolds and RSP acted in concert to direct the infringing performance, making each jointly and severally liable for the whole of the harm. And then supervising agent. Reynolds exercised direct authority over Pauly's conduct, which there is evidence. The paradigm case for supervisory agent liability under federal copyright doctrine. So any one of these characteristics is sufficient to add Reynolds under Rule 15A. Together, they substantially lower the pleading threshold. So how could Henson add Reynolds to the lawsuit? Well, amending the complaint to add Reynolds as a named defendant is procedurally viable under Rule 15. The substantive predicate is Pauly's statements combined with the following factual allegations. And again, not just Pauly's statements, but Johnny Likens now has, 2 posts by the looks of it, where he heavily credits Ryan Reynolds. So he could plead Pauly's statements. We could introduce Pauly's direct attestation that Reynolds was in control and made the decisions about performing the choreography as a factual allegation supported by witness testimony. I'm telling you now, if discovery starts, there may well be a lot more to discover from Nick Pauly about Ryan Reynolds' involvement, because in theory, Henson could access text messages and so on and so forth, as we've just seen in the Lively case. So more could come to light. To alleged supervisory role. Particularize Reynolds' involvement in the creative direction of the dance sequence, citing his producer credit and any documented communications with RSP or Pauly. 3. Establish decision-making authority. Allege that Reynolds held final authority over whether the choreography would be performed. Authority exercised irrespective of licensing status. And then 4. Assert financial interest. Connect Maximum Effort's marketing role and Reynolds' producer credit to the direct commercial benefit derived from the production containing the infringing work. Critical point here, Reynolds need not have been involved in or even aware of the licensing process. Supervising an infringing act is independently sufficient for vicarious liability. Okay, so finally, to kind of summarize everything, Reynolds is a plausible defendant. His current exposure, based on the current amended complaint, it does not include Pauly's statements, and it does not allege any wrongdoing by Reynolds. Reynolds' exposure, while arguably latent in the agency allegation at paragraph 9, is not yet formally activated. Now, if Pauly's statements are added, Reynolds becomes a plausible and legally exposed defendant for both contributory and vicarious infringement. The statements provide exactly the supervisory control evidence courts require. And then the strategic implication. So Henson's counsel should evaluate whether to seek leave to amend under Rule 15A. The factual predicate exists. The question is one of litigation strategy and witness cooperation. So there are two theories of liability, contributory and vicarious infringement, each independently viable on Pauly's account. There is one missing allegation though. Pauly's statement is the single amendment that materially changes Reynolds' legal exposure. Zero licensing involvement required. Vicarious liability attaches without any proof that Reynolds participated in or was aware of licensing decisions. However, for contributory negligence, contributory infringement, there has to be like some involvement in licensing. But I've already made the case that, you know, clearly Ryan Reynolds was involved in licensing decisions for the film overall, because there was a whole ass interview where he talked about going to Madonna's house to beg her to license like a prayer, because they'd already, you know, written and filmed the sequence and left asking permission to use the song as an afterthought. So there is already evidence that he had involvement in licensing decisions and, you know, even sourcing license. So there we go. Let me know what you think in the comments, though, and if you've got any questions, please do ask. I've got all the comments on the previous videos to catch up with too. I am really sorry. I've been taking care of a little one, and we're in a heat wave, and it's just everything's a bit. It's not good here in the UK at the moment. But thank you for listening as always. And please do leave a comment.